Good evening. Now your STV news, including the headlines for air. The Electoral Reform Society is calling for a Scottish Parliament investigation into the behaviour of Aberdeen Donside MSP Mark MacDonald. The Society's director says voters should have the power to decide whether he should be allowed to continue as an MSP. After he quit the SNP, the First Minister called on him to resign, but Mr MacDonald says he'll stay on as an independent. A court has heard how a former A&D consultant at Monklands Hospital had hundreds of images of guns, ammunition and explosive devices on his computer. It's alleged Dr Martin Watt also had an envelope with "bad guys" written on it at his home in Cumbernauld. He denies possessing firearms with intent to endanger life. The Scottish Government has unveiled plans to change how rough sleepers are supported. Permanent accommodation rather than temporary housing will be offered to those with more complex needs and extra funding provided.
A set of recommendations is one thing, but action to implement them is the main thing. The key things in the recommendations are about prevention. When we can predict homelessness, we should be preventing. There's no reason not to.
The first polar bear cub, born in the UK for 25 years, has finally ventured outside. The youngster was born before Christmas at the Highland Wildlife Park near Canusie. It's still not clear yet if the cub is a boy or a girl, as it's been closely guarded by mother Victoria. And the main headlines in air this evening. A former greenkeeper at a golf club in a Glasgow suburb has been jailed for abusing a young boy. The High Court in Glasgow heard James Harkins attack the child at White Craigs Golf Club in the 1980s and 90s. He was sentenced to 6 years and 4 months in prison. And 2 men are due to appear in court today after a pensioner was robbed in his home in Kilmarnock's Rathburn Avenue. The 80-year-old was said to be unhurt but shaken after the incident on Sunday night. Well, that's all for now. Remember to join us again in an hour for the STV News at 6. But first, it's time for a look at the latest weather forecast. Have a good evening. Goodbye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather. TUI sponsors STV Weather.